Welcome. Welcome to this video. And I'm going to call this video The Day I Met and Flirted with the beautiful, gorgeous Melanie Griffith. Melanie Griffith is an actor, and she was prominent in films in the 70s, 80s, and 90s in Hollywood. I used to work as an extra, or they call it a background artist, in Hollywood in the late 80s. And I worked about 5 days a week, and I worked on different TV shows and different movies. I worked on Murder, She Wrote and Houston Nights, and I worked on Die Hard 1, and I worked on Thelma and Louise, and Twins, Guilty by Suspicion. And in 1990, when they were shooting in LA, I worked on a film called BONFIRE of the VANITIES, which was adapted from the best-selling novel by Tom Wolfe. Tom Wolfe was the same author who wrote the Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test. The film was, the stars of the film were Melanie Griffith and Tom Hanks and Bruce Willis and Morgan Freeman. And I remember the first day that I worked on it. We were in a building at Burbank Studios, which later became called Sony Studios. And it's an old type Hollywood studio. You have a big front gate, and when you get through the gate, there are sound stages on either side of the street. And there's also a back lot. Like they have a very extensive back lot at Universal Studios, which you can see in some movies like Dick Tracy. And they have a pretty extensive one at Sony Studios. So we were near the back lot somewhere in a building, and all of us male extras were dressed in tuxedos. And I used to keep a tuxedo because you got extra money for wearing a tuxedo. So I was in there in my tuxedo. I remember we worked a day there, and there were a lot of people, and it was about some kind of a party scene. I have not seen the movie, so I'm not sure what happened, but I remember I had a vintage tuxedo from like the 1940s or whatever, or the 1930s, that I got in a thrift shop in Santa Monica, and I used that many times. But on this movie, they wanted to be, that wasn't the period, so they wanted to put me in one of their tuxedos. And so they put me in one of their tuxedos. But I got paid anyway for the extra tuxedo. So I remember that shoot because when we wrapped at the end of the day, it said, well, good news, you're all coming back tomorrow, you know. And I didn't want to come back tomorrow. I didn't want to come back tomorrow. Tomorrow was my birthday. Right, so that must have been the 23rd of July, 1990, maybe. And it was the 24th of July is my birthday. And it was my 40th birthday. So that's a big milestone for someone growing up when you hit 30 and then you hit 40. So I was kind of bummed about coming back, and there was another guy that was making a big ruckus about it because he had a SAG gig the following day. That means a regular movie part or a TV show part with lines and the whole thing, and with SAG, it's the Screen Actors Guild, with SAG pay. So he was pretty upset about it. Anyway, I guess evidently I didn't get established as anybody in any of those shots because I was hired again a few months later. And they were shooting in the the Museum of Natural History in Los Angeles. It was a big building inside, kind of dark, you know, with sort of wooden Grecian style columns and very high ceiling. And I remember we were all wearing tuxedos, just they're shooting the same party, I guess. And for the first part of the shoot, a bunch of us men were in a balcony in that building, and we were in tuxedos. And there was a guy that I met on sets and used to hang out with, and he looked like a quintessential Italian singer or something, you know, like maybe Vic Damone in the 1950s, you know, especially with a tuxedo on. And he had this joke that he would do. He would sing old standard show tunes, you know, from Tin Pan Alley, and he would do them as Bob Dylan. So he'd be like, you know, stay, funny Valentine, stay, each day will be, you know. That was our gag, you know. But later, we were down on the dance floor. I guess it was a dance floor, and there was like a whole lot of people in there. There must have been 150, 200, 250 people in there. We were all extras and actors in tuxedos, and the women were wearing evening gowns. And there were just lines of us in that ballroom, just pointing toward the front. And in the front was the director, Brian De Palma, and he was sitting in a big director's chair, and some other people in director's chairs next to him. And I guess the action was going on in front of him. I remember seeing Tom Hanks scurrying around on the floor and stuff, you know. So we were all back there. It was kind of a very casual, laid-back situation. They didn't want to cut us loose yet, so we were, you know, toward the front, all these people in black tuxedos and various colored evening gowns, and in some places there was space that you could like walk diagonally through it if you wanted to get to the other side, you know. Good coffee. So I was standing in one of those places. There was a considerable amount of space, and there were people having conversations. And I was talking to some guy, you know, and this very attractive woman in an evening gown started approaching us. And I noticed her, and I noticed how attractive she was. And kind of a ruddy Irish complexion, a little bit freckled, and sort of strawberry blonde colored hair, you know. And as she got closer, she walked up to me and she started talking. She just walked up to me and started talking. And in my mind, I'm thinking, my God, this is the actress, Melanie Griffith. Melanie Griffith. And she just started talking to me. Now, on sets in Hollywood, there's a big difference between principal actors like Melanie Griffith, Tom Hanks, and the actress. And we're there to provide a lifelike background in a shot. So, although we weren't shooting there, but the shooting was going up at the front, you know. So, we're pretty much not supposed to bother the principal actors, right? Because if you, those of you who know something about acting know, an actor prepares, you know. And some actors have a very elaborate preparation process, and they don't want some extra tapping them on the shoulder and going, hey, I really dug you in that movie, you know. No. I think an actor would get really pissed if that happened. And if it was a really big star actor, man, you'd never work again, you know. So I was a little reticent, you know, but she walked up to me and she stood close and then closer, and she was talking to me. And I was going, and she started talking to me, you know, about, well, when this shoot is over, I'm going to Aspen, and I'm going to ride my horse, you know. I was going, oh, well, how nice that is, you know. And you see, on movies, some actors just come and they do a character, and it might take months shooting out of sequence to do that character, and they just do that. Some actors, they need to stay in character all the time. Some actors stay in character in their regular life through the whole shoot of the movie. I've done that, and it just makes the character habitual to the actor, and it actually changes the way you think. It's very interesting to watch yourself, you know. So, and many actors, they stay in character when they're on a set. They might not be in character outside, you know. So I'm talking to this woman, you know. This is a famous Hollywood actress, Melanie Griffith, and she's talking like an 11-year-old girl, you know. I'm going to Aspen, and I'm going to ride my horse, you know. And so I didn't know whether she was just being in character or that was just Melanie, you know. Very sweet, you know. And I found her very, very appealing, you know. So we talked for about 15 minutes, you know. And she was telling me about her horse and about this and about Aspen and about that. I'm going, and it was like talking to an 11-year-old girl, you know. And she was really coming on to me. I don't know. I'm just an extra on that set, you know. So after a while, some gentleman approached, and he was in a three-piece tuxedo like the rest of us, and he had kind of like a well-trimmed beard and hair and everything. He very, very tactfully and surreptitiously got her attention. She was talking to me, and she's like, yeah, you know. And so she went with him. And then I saw them standing together, and he was telling her something, you know. Probably that guy is not who you think he is. He's an extra, you know. So I don't know who she thought I was. I have no idea. I do know that in those days I worked a movie called The Boost with James Woods, and I was in a three-piece suit with an actor in an elevator. And I didn't even know what we were going to do. I was just in there with an elevator with this actor. His name is Rothman, John Rothman or something. He's still active today as an actor. And I didn't know what the action was going to be. They didn't tell me. But the action was that we were in the elevator, and the elevator was going to move down. I didn't know it was going to move at all. So that it moves down, and then the elevator doors open on the ground floor, and we hang a left, and we go down this hallway in a building, like a financial building in New York City. And of course, as soon as the doors open, cameras on the doors, and then we turned to the left, and camera followed us down there. And it was really cool how they prepped that to look like New York, because it was very subtle. It's just an old office building in San Francisco, in Los Angeles, excuse me, and the real old features and everything was cool. And you could look down the hallway, and you could look out the doors. There were glass doors and a glass thing on top with the address. You could look out there, and they had put a New York subway stop outside the door. So you kind of see that if you're looking at these actors. And they timed it so a bus would go by outside, and it had a New York logo on the bus. So, you know, they take care of detail for these things, you know. So anyway, I didn't know any of this until we did it, you know. It was very spontaneous. So I'm just in an elevator with an actor, and the elevator's not going anywhere, and I'm with Mr. Rothfield, or Rothman, or whatever his name is, and we're just standing there. And I was just really quiet, because I know that you don't disturb an actor when he's preparing. And I guess he wasn't preparing. So he's standing there, I'm standing there. I didn't say anything to him. You don't say anything to an actor, you know, if you're working as an extra. And I guess I was very aloof and dignified, in my three-piece striped suit, you know, with a tie and everything. And at a certain point, John Rothman turns around to me and he says, "Are you Donald Trump?" And I said, I was completely shocked, you know. And that was the year, like 1988 or something, or 89. I didn't know who Donald Trump was. And I said to him, "Who's Donald Trump?" And then he dropped the idea, you know. So I don't know, maybe if we go back to LA a few years later, maybe she thought I was Trump, or she thought I was somebody that had to do with production on that picture. Another experience I had, there was an episode of, I used to work on Beauty and the Beast, starring Linda Hamilton. And Linda Hamilton became a good friend. And so the first night I worked there, I went down to Culver Studios, and they had a back lot. They had an outside tenement there, like they do at Universal. And what they like to do is they like to water down the streets and everything. So it has this kind of shininess from the water. So the lights are shimmering on the pavement, and when you shoot the camera photography, you get that kind of shimmeringness, you know. So I'm a detective, and I got like on a trench coat, you know, and I was late. I parked my car, and I started to walk, and I could see the set. You know, they were all set up on this tenement street, which was a mock tenement, and I was trying to get across, you know, cross over the weeds to get over there. And finally I get over there, and I'm standing there. I think they gave me the trench coat. Right, they gave me the trench coat when they gave me the gun and the badge, once I was on the other side. So I'm standing there, and there's a woman I can see across the street. It's like a mock street, right? And she comes with her hand out. She comes across the street, and she goes, "Hi, my name is Linda Hamilton," and she shakes my hand, and I go, "Oh, nice to meet you," you know. And I didn't know who Linda Hamilton was. She was really well known for her role in The Terminator with Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I don't know, sometimes people get the idea that I'm somebody involved with production, that they should know and everything, you know. And later, when they started shooting Beauty and the Beast, I continued to be friends with Linda Hamilton. She was a nice lady. And they had the dressing rooms, and when they have their own studio in East LA, and they had a beast grotto for the extras, so we were like in a grotto-like thing. And Linda Hamilton used to come out, and she'd go into the extras' quarters, you know, and she'd come and she'd talk to me, you know. It was very nice. And she told me once, "Guess what? You know, I'm pregnant. I'm going to have a baby." I said, "Oh, well, congratulations." And I said, "What about this series and everything, you know?" And I don't remember what she said, but she had it in hand. So now, let's cut back to L.A. and Bonfire of the Vanities and Melanie Griffith. So she had been talking to me, you know, we had been talking. I was talking back to her. She started it, you know. So if anyone tried to get me in trouble, and we had a nice conversation, except that she was 11 years old. And then that man came, and he took her away, and I saw them standing there, and she was listening to him, and she wasn't happy, whatever he told her. He probably told her, "That's just an extra. That's not," I don't know, she thought I was Trump or somebody, you know. So I saw her. She walked around the outside perimeter of that crowd of people, and she walked around to the front. And she plopped down on the floor at the foot of the director's chair. In it was Brian De Palma, the director of that film. And she just looked really dejected, you know, sitting on the floor. So, I don't know. Maybe you can tell me in your comments if you've seen the movie. Was she playing someone like that? Or is that the actress, Melanie Griffith? It could be. Could be that she's very childlike. I don't know. Anyway, that she really appealed to me. I would have gone out with her, you know, or whatever. But I didn't know what she had in mind. And she was being very friendly, you know. Cheers.